Yeah.
So, guys, when you had a bad day at work, does anyone ever tell you somebody's got a case of the Mondays?
No.
Fuck no, I punch him.
No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked and shit like that.
Amen. And speaking of work, Office Space is 20 years old today by the time I upload this, even though we recorded it on the Monday. Yeah, I know. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And
I feel the gray hair is coming, honestly. The hairlines are fleeting.
Off topic, but one of our local friends, I was visiting him yesterday, and I noticed that his hair is starting to get really gray.
Oh, no.
Not good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, don't introduce him to a girl. It'll go grayer even faster.
In fact, I think I'm starting to gray out a little bit, though I don't see it. Maybe like 1 or 2 strings of hair, but Office Space.
You ain't going gray. Whatever.
Office
Space. Good look at you. Your hair is pretty healthy and brown. All right, don't give me that gray shit. Come on, you're fine.
Well, thank you.
Space came
Anyways,
out during a magical time at the movies. Darkscream.
Yeah, it came out at February 19th, 1999, the end of what is, to my opinion, because, well, personal bias, the 90s. My favorite decade to this day, probably because that was my childhood the whole time, really.
I mean, it was my childhood. I don't really have a particular bias for any decade, but the 90s, if I had to describe it, the best way I could say, at one point I was going to say, the beginning of the end of everything good, because really it's been downhill from here ever since early 2000. I mean, minus out what we were saying earlier before we went live, I guess, which, by the way, it's good to hear your voice again, about how 9/11 has made things so sensitive. And even though that was 20 years ago, the mentality has festered for so long now that all the kids that were around when 9/11 happened have now grown up to young adults with that instilled in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everybody suffers as a result.
Go ahead, Darkscream.
Well, because the worst thing to happen before 9/11 was working at an office job. And that's clearly what this movie was all about.
Yeah, it came out right before 9/11, didn't it?
Yeah, like I said, it came out like about 2 years before, yeah.
Yeah, right before. You couldn't make that movie today. No.
No.
You there
was banned. Nah, dude, you get banned so fucking fast before. Remember the Interview movie? Remember the big controversy with that, and it really wasn't even that big of a deal. It's just,
okay. I was forgetting what the movie is about. Oh yeah, the Seth Rogen comedy. Yeah, I remember that, but that's because North Korea is just the most sensitive ass country in the whole damn world. But anyways, Magus, you were saying?
I want to talk about this. So I have on Wikipedia, the most reliable source ever, not really, but for this it is, the movies that came out in January and March of 1999. Okay. So around the time, I want you guys to just put this in
perspective.
I want perspective, yes, because Office Space was a box office failure.
Yes, it was.
Complete flop.
Now, let's talk about the movies that did come out. And I'm only, not all of them, but I'm going to list a couple of them with the same theme. January 15th, 1999, Varsity Blues. January 29th, She's All That. February 5th, Simply Irresistible with Sarah Michelle Gellar. Okay? Blast from the Past. Kind of get a theme. Jawbreaker came out the same day as Office Space, which is also considered a cult classic at this point, too. But what do those films all have in common?
I think they're all like teenage rom-coms.
Well, Jawbreaker is a bit darker than that, but
I don't really know anything about any of those movies other than the fact that they came out around the same time.
Here's the thing, with the exception of Jawbreaker, none of those films I kind of remember them. Well, I know they existed, but I don't know shit about them. Not like
all you need to know is that they're rom-coms. So and then even after that, we had stuff like 20 Dates and The Other Sister, and it looks like Cruel Intentions. All of these with the same fucking people, the Freddie Prinze Jr.'s and the Sarah Michelle Gellars and all them. And that's why I think Office Space probably failed, because it was was an abnormality at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a slice of life comedy about the everyday life of working in a corporate office job, which has been soul sucking for our protagonist Peter Gibbons. I want to segue into our like first real experiences of the film. Our history with it. I'll start with mine. Okay,
I'll go
so
last.
I didn't
Because,
see.
I'm in the back of the bus.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It's okay. I'm black. I can make that joke. It's fine.
oh, someone will still get offended anyway.
Anyways,
Fuck them.
I'm with you.
Grow a pair or two.
Anyways, I of course I didn't see the movies in theaters because I was like 10 years old at the time, and I think my parents had some pretty strict regulations on me seeing R-rated movies. The only exceptions were Animal House and Blazing Saddles at the time.
Oh, man.
Yeah, my dad loved the hell out of Animal House, and one day I might want to talk about that movie with you guys because
definitely.
Yeah, I had some fond memories with it. I also think it's a great comedy to this day, but I did see advertisements for it. The film was pretty heavily advertised, and they did advertise that it was directed by Mike Judge, who we all know as the creator of Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, as well as some SNL cartoon shorts called Milton, which is what Office Space is based off of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the current Silicon Valley that's on HBO.
Yeah, well,
Oh man, I forgot about that. Shit, thank you.
Couple years later, when I was like in high school, I think that's when Office Space started showing up on Comedy Central. Now I would see bits and pieces of it, but I never saw it from start to finish. And of course, it was censored. They censored all the profanity, they censored the rap music, and that. Now it wasn't until 2007 when, during my freshman year in university, I went to this club. And they had like a special dinner and movie meetup where they were going to have some pizza and there was going to be a film. And I asked, "Oh, what's the film?" And they said it's going to be Office Space. And I'm like, "Well," I was like, "Yeah, sure, okay, whatever. At least I get free pizza, and as a college student, that's just a really good bonus." So I went there and I saw the movie, and we actually saw it in this really nice mini auditorium classroom with really nice chairs, and it was played on a very well-lit projector, and I watched the movie from start to finish. Every line of dialogue stuck with me. Almost everything got me a big chuckle or just a knee-slapping laugh, and it's just mostly the dialogue. And I just really grew to love and appreciate this film. I even did some research of it after the film really stuck and resonated with me. I went online to look up more about the film, the behind the scenes, and all that stuff. And I just grew to love it there. Now, the reason why I described my theater experience so vividly is because it actually did kind of feel like a genuine theater experience to me. It was better than most actual theater experiences I had. No crying babies, at least. And,
that's good.
And this, what year was this?
This was in 2007. This was like 12 years ago.
This was right before I met you. You had just seen Office Space right before I met you. Wow, that is interesting.
Yep, that's correct. That was like a year before I met you.
That's right.
Yeah,
and a year before you met me.
That is true. This was a year before I've entered the YouTube scene. So that was like the early origins of Darkscream right there.
And some more deep lore. The day I met you and became friends with you, you had just made your first video, and I remember what it was. It was speaking out against people shitting on Street Fighter 4's visuals before it came out.
Oh, neat!
I remember that video.
Yeah, I even talked a little. I even did a video about Street Fighter 4 a couple days ago talking about that. But anyways,
sorry that I couldn't participate.
I couldn't either.
Okay, it's cool. It's fine. But
I'm gonna have to just drive up and beat you up in person in Minecraft, of course. In Minecraft,
sure, or Dragon Quest Builders. But yeah, I've been getting back into that game. Magus, what was your early experience with Office Space?
Well, I was 16 the year it came out, so that was 1999. And what happened was I remember hearing about it and seeing a bunch of commercials for it at the time of its release, but never caught it, right? Until about a year later when it came out on HBO or Cinemax, one of those. And I remember catching it on when it premiered on HBO and Cinemax, and I was curious about it. And back then, you know, like if it was a box office success or not, that wasn't really. It was a big deal, but it wasn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can agree to that.
It's like, oh, you want to watch that movie, but it didn't make any money though.
To be honest with you, yeah, it was a weird movie for me, but I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah, so I remember watching it on HBO or something, and I loved it. And the scene the whole movie sold me, but the suicide scene is what really sold me on that movie. And at the time, it was funny. God. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, later. But the suicide scene cracked me up.
You talking about with Tom?
Yep.
Oh God, yeah. It's funny that you call it that because that's what it is. But every time I watch the movie, it just doesn't dawn on me. He's trying to kill himself, even though they literally blatantly say it in that scene. Yeah, because it's so ridiculous.
It's just that when I first saw that suicide scene, I actually got freaking scared for Tom when he got T-boned by that drunk driver.
Yeah, I did.
I was like, oh, and it's like, no, he's alive. He just got a few broken bones, but he's gonna figure. But now you can watch it again, knowing that Tom is gonna make it, and then you can laugh at that scene.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It's not just the irony of that scene that's funny, because as you go, at least for me, I watched it when I was 16, 17 the first time, right?
Right.
That scene was funny with the irony as it was. But as you get older, like I didn't watch the movie for a big chunk. I'd watch it every couple of years, but really I started watching it more consistently about 3 years ago, because the humor just got better as you got older, right?
Even it's more like funny. Fine wine.
So what makes that scene funny is the douchey narration, because he says, because I just watched it an hour ago. So he says shit like, so get this, guys. He tried to kill. He just says it so casually, like if it's nothing.
As if it's not. I think that's why. You know what? It's funny you say that too, because I think that's why every time I see that scene, I don't take it seriously.
But the thing that really bugs me is that he goes, check this out. He sees his wife, and now he changes his mind, and he wants to live. He actually chuckles like a douche. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, guy.
That wife of his is like, okay, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, that wife.
You damn near got killed.
And that character only had 2 scenes in that whole movie. He was there, and he was also in the party where he's like, "Oh, you're dating the Tchotchkes girl? She's been around the block. Oh, who really? Who's she date? Well,
Lumberg fucker. Lumberg fucker. Like he named a couple other people, but all of the sound of everything he's saying is different because that one, the first name, is all that. Like he must have known that was going to bother Peter when he said that. He must have, because I don't know. There's just something about Drew. He's that. All of these characters are so relatable. Drew's that guy that. Yeah, go ahead.
Like, to be fair, it's like he never even said the dude's first name, because we learned later in the film it was a different Lumberg. And it's like, but everyone at the office probably refers to Bill as just Lumberg.
Well, most people do, yeah.
Drew is that douchebag that doesn't realize he's a douchebag. And you kind of like him because you don't mind him, you could tolerate him because he doesn't realize he's a douchebag. Yeah.
His 2 scenes kind of remind me of this one other character from this other cult classic film, The Big Lebowski. You remember? I don't know if you guys seen that film or.
I unfortunately have not.
There's a character in there played by John Turturro, and he calls himself the Jesus, and he only has like 2 scenes, but like in both scenes, he is just a crack to watch. He just really amps it up and everything.
You know what? Having watched, like I said, I literally watched this movie again like an hour ago. And that's something I wanted to point out. Good thing that you brought it up, Darkscream. There's a lot of minor characters in there that are hilarious, but they don't. Another example is Jennifer Aniston's coworker, that fucking happy-go-lucky dude.
Which, by the way, after rewatching it recently, it's funny. You know who that person was? Who was Jennifer Aniston's boss?
Yeah, it was the director, Mike Judge.
Yeah, it's Mike Judge. It's just I don't know why I didn't notice that at first. After all
I
these
didn't
years,
know
I'm
that.
like, wait a minute, that is him.
The
It makes more sense, doesn't it?
The thing that will clue you in is that Mike Judge has a very he's not just a good cartoonist and an animator, but I also like to think that he's a very good voice actor because he voices like most of his characters in Beavis and Butthead, and he would try to give him a different voice and stuff, but you would still recognize his Judge. Well, his Jennifer Aniston's boss sounds very similar to Mr. Van Driesen from Beavis and Butthead, the hippie teacher, the one who's all like, "You need to get in touch with yourself spiritually." Okay. So just try to take that voice and put it into some of that character's lines. Joanne, we need to talk to you about your flair.
Oh my God! You remember the parallels I made with him and Lumber because they essentially were the same character.
Yeah.
Just different fucking backgrounds. Yeah.
It's like if Mike Judge was literally trying to okay, he probably thought he was going to be Bill Lumbergh at one point before they casted Gary Cole to play the part.
But it's her whatchamacallit, coworker that cracks me up. The other guy.
Yeah.
I
don't know his name actually.
What the fuck is his name? I've heard his name so many times.
I think it was Brandon or something. I got.
Oh God! I feel like I'm cheating on a test.
Ryan,
even though I studied for hours. It's like fuck. I know this. Why can't I think?
I know the boss says his name, and I know Jennifer Aniston says his name at one point. But the scene where they first introduce him,
oh God,
is a joke. Is a joke you can't make in the real world anymore nowadays. Which unfortunately, the film is timeless, but it's also dated in a lot of aspects. It's also a period piece. But anyways, when Peter invites his two coworkers to dine at Chachki's for lunch, and Peter goes, and I quote, "One of these days I'm just gonna go," and he mimics a machine gun, goes, if anyone saw that or heard what he said, they would freak out and call the cops on him.
Oh, that'd be the end of the movie.
No. What does this little waiter do? He goes up to him and goes,
yeah. Sounds like someone's having the case on the Mondays.
Hey, Darkscream, just to back up, we didn't get all of the origin stories with Office Space.
No, we didn't. Art, what's your origin story? Sorry about that tangent.
It's all good.
No, it's all good. I had a feeling it was going to happen, but oh man. So one thing we used to do very often, in my neighborhood, back when we actually had rentals, which snapshot that. You remember when we used to go and rent movies? Not at Redbox or digitally, oh, well, you can have it for 24 hours. No, like you got a cassette tape, VHS, and we would rent so many different movies. So one of the movies that I was renting other than Office Space was The Cable Guy. So up to this point, comedy had been presented to me from a very slapstick studio audience standpoint of view. I grew up watching shows like Martin and Married with Children and Coach and Family Matters. So the idea of humor was, if you hear them laugh, it's supposed to be funny. Now, of course, this tradition was broken for me through animation, through The Simpsons. But I never for once saw a movie that was funny that I understood was supposed to be funny when it was presented funny, unless it was so over the top, which is why I mentioned The Cable Guy in the first place. Because aside from how dark the movie really is on the end, is that it's Jim Carrey doing what he always does, acting crazy and outlandish, and that's most of the movie. And I think most people gloss over the fact that The Cable Guy is a very, very well done dark comedy. But with Office Space, you didn't have the over-the-top presentation with said actors like Jim Carrey, nor did you have the laugh track or even a basic structure of what you would consider to be funny. And mind you, this movie came out before I was 11 years old, so I didn't quite understand what humor on an adult level really was. So when I first saw it, there were only a few scenes that really were funny because of its usage of sound and music. Like whenever Peter's trying to get out of the office early, but he gets caught by Bill.
Oh yeah,
fucking music. That fucking music.
What's happening?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a jump scare, but you know it's not really scary. It's just scary through his perspective because he's running from something that he knows is coming, even though he has been experiencing it for what, I guess 5 or 6 years now. I'm going to assume that he's been working as long as his friend Michael.
That scene where he tries to turn off his computer, which takes forever, which kids nowadays will not be able to understand, but yes, computers and the internet were super slow back then. And he's like peeking out, seeing Lumberg slowly going towards his direction. He's like, come on, come on.
Yeah. When Lumberg is faster than the computer.
When we watched it again last week, I was instantly reminded of another film that probably came out the same year, The Matrix.
Yeah. Remember that? It came out like a month later.
Yeah,
a month later.
Remember that scene where Neo was like at his cubicle and the agents were chasing him and Morpheus was trying to get him? For some reason, it just reminded me of that.
Dude, what if that's a sequel, like a spinoff? Like, in order to battle against the machines of the cubicle office space life, Neo must become the one.
Oh, shit.
You know, Mr. Anderson, what's happening?
You know what's something funny about 1999 that I realized? It was a lot of the more subtle films. The Matrix was actually one of those more subtle films. It was not meant to be a box office success, if you guys remember.
At all. Which is why I love it more than the other two, because to be honest with you, they're not necessary. The other two movies don't provide anything in terms of story aside from what you could already speculate yourself, because the way the movie ends leaves it open to interpretation of like, okay, well, he's defeated the system. So his long dialogue at the end was pretty much saying, you know, we've been in prison all this time. We're here for rebellion and revolution because that's what we deserve. So the other two movies don't provide anything other than what you would already expect.
Well, the other two, real quick, I got to say something. The other two movies turned the Matrix into a Christ allegory. Whereas the first one is not. The first one is a Christ allegory, but it seemed like it made it more redundant.
Yeah, it wasn't as important.
We're going on a tangent. We need to finish your origin story, dude.
Right.
Yeah, you were saying there were like only two things that made you laugh.
Well, it was mainly that, and also the direction of my my siblings, because they were older and would laugh at what they knew was funny, and I would kind of just laugh along with them. But I never finished watching the movie because I felt like, well, it didn't really apply to me. Well, once I became a teenager, of course, that really all changed. Then I understood what it meant, what dark comedy was and what true comedy was, and what was actually funny and what was not. Of course, unfortunately, at the time, some of my favorite shows were going off the air, like Martin and Living Single and all of that, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But with Office Space, it was so relatable because these characters didn't feel so over the top and unrealistic. Well, maybe Bill, only me to go to school years later and have a literature teacher that literally talks like that. Like he even looked like him. I won't say his name.
Share this story.
But yeah, he talked so fucking slowly, and it was in the morning. Like there's absolutely nothing I can learn through one bloodshot eye. I'm barely learning to read with me being black at all, and now I have to do a book report on a book that we're not going to read. No one's reading this book. I mean, I already knew this story. I just look up the cliff notes. The book was The Andromeda Strain. I refused to fucking read it, even though I still read it anyway. I didn't give a shit. But I couldn't go over the fact that he represented Bill Lumberg and his mannerisms so much. And I even went to other places, not just school, but like stores and everything. And I think every establishment has a Bill Lumberg deep down. I really do. I think that they have. Yeah. They may not look like it in terms of mannerisms or even sound like it, but it's just this snobbish mentality, because Bill Lumberg never talked to any of his subjects. He talked down to them. He always told them what was going to be done and made declarations as if he was God, but also not from the standpoint of a human being, as if it was automated, a machine, which is why you hate Bill Lumberg so much, but not because he has this inability to understand what it means to be human. It's because he doesn't care.
No.
And he did it to his superiors too.
Oh yeah, the Bobs. Just when
Like, it's so automated.
When they were starting to really like Peter, he was all like, "Ooh, I'm gonna have to disagree," and he even brought up the damn TPS reports for like the 17th time.
Oh my god, dude!
But yeah, that was something that really makes that movie great. Well, to be fair, Lumbergh as well as the character Milton did come from a cartoon, and that's why they were like the two most cartoonish characters. But everyone else, yeah, it can be, they feel like real, relatable people. And you probably did know a guy, or you probably heard of a guy who had the same name as a famous celebrity, like Michael.
Back up in your ass. Back up in your ass.
Oh shit!
What?
No, I was just gonna say it's interesting that he based this movie on something he did on a cartoon, but he made the two main characters of the cartoon into essentially supporting characters.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? But even though they're technically sort of the main characters, they're the ones that play a role that are the most important in the largest communities.
Well, the protagonist is obviously Peter Gibbons, but I do like to argue that it's more of an ensemble cast because you get a lot of characters. A lot of characters have some arcs and focuses. We got Peter Gibbons, we got Michael Bolton and Samir. We got a little bit of Lawrence. We got Tom Smokowski. Even he has an arc. We talked about him earlier, how he was like worried about losing his job. Then he had that fucking interview meltdown, which was great, by the way. And then he was going to kill himself, but then he changed his mind, nearly gets killed, but then apparently he gets a big figure come in, and now he's got money and seems things are working out for him. So he had a whole arc to himself, even though he was like a minor character with only like 3 or 4 scenes. And we also had Jennifer Aniston's character Joanne in the same way. So yeah, you can make the argument that it is an ensemble cast film.
Definitely, because every line from every character, even if they only say one line once, like Tom's lawyer when he's talking to Samir and Michael at the party, he's like, "Minimum security? Not that I know of. I have a client in there right now." He says, "The trick is kick someone's ass in the first week, or become someone's bitch." What do you at exactly?
They got so nervous they like threw their drinks off.
I wonder how many times they had to reshoot that scene for the cup spill to feel authentic enough for the film. They probably were laughing their fucking ass off so much that they had to reshoot it multiple times.
You know who we haven't talked about at all? Lawrence. We haven't talked about Lawrence.
Oh, God. Lawrence. Yes.
Ooh, wow. Your microphone's popping.
Mine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Oh,
no. We're going so good.
But anyways, yeah, Lawrence, the construction worker and the next door neighbor. You know what's funny? In the week prior to this recording, after we saw the movie, I actually did find like the draft of the original script, and there were some interesting lines of dialogue where Lawrence, there were a lot of changes to that script too, but Lawrence was like prideful of his job as a construction worker because he could be like pointing out to buildings and say, "You see that building? I build that," and all that stuff. But yeah,
he actually still is. He actually still is.
Yeah, he was still a construction worker, and even though it doesn't pay as well, he did enjoy his job, and he was fucking A. And I love the fact that the walls are so thin in his apartment complex, which, by the way, I don't know if you caught the name of the apartment. Do you know the name of the apartment complex, Magus?
No, I don't.
In the scene where you see Peter driving in there, and the first time before he shows him the breast massage thing, you can see that the apartment complex name is Morningwood Apartments.
Oh shit!
Yep. So there's
episode of Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. There's a little Beavis. There's some Beavis and Butthead elements in there.
Never would have fucking caught that after 20 years of watching this fucking movie.
Dude, there were some things that we didn't caught when we watched the film last week. Like when that office lady was like, "Michael Bolton, is that your name? Are you related to the singer?" And he goes, "No, it's just a coincidence." And then the subtitles picked it up because we were watching with the subtitles on. But you can hear him murmur, "That's right, you stupid fucking cow."
Oh shit!
And speaking of Michael Bolton, I missed this the first time I saw it fully back in college, but like a couple years later when I rewatched the film, when they were doing the heist, or when they were doing the virus, all to the ice.
I like to think of it as a heist.
Yeah, it's a heist. When Michael Bolton was like getting up, checking all over the place to see if there's anything suspicious or somebody's going to catch him as he installs the virus, that same woman walks up in slow motion, all, "Hi, Michael Bolton," and he's so pissed off, and he actually breaks the fourth wall. He looks directly at the camera. Did you catch that, Magus?
Yeah,
yes.
He just I don't know if that was a mistake, but yeah, the way he looked at the camera was just so disgusted. And when I first saw the movie years ago, I always thought that the reason why he looked at the camera in disgust was the idea of how much that woman annoys him. But really, it was when we slowed it down and understood, because the entire scene is in slow motion, which, my God, I would have never guessed you liked rap music, and the fact that it would fit so well. I mean, we're getting to the printer scene, but just that one scene when they show her waving to him, what she's saying, because her voice is all muffled, she's saying, "Bye, Michael Bolton," as if to say that she knew that he was going to get fired.
I never noticed
after his interview. Yeah, I wouldn't have caught that, because I guess we're kind of overtaken by the fact of what's happening, along with the fact that they're using that music.
Oh man, I love the fact that they use good rap music as the soundtrack for this movie.
The G-Funk era too, dude. Man, just
and sorry if we're still stuck on Michael Bolton, but remember his first scene where he was singing "No Tears" by Scarface. And
oh my God,
he was singing, he was acting tough, and there was like a black guy there, and he just like stops singing, and he closes his door. He locks the door. And actually, when you hear the lyrics, the N-word drops, but when he was like slowly like trying to sing,
that's right. Wow.
He doesn't say the N-word at all, and then it goes back to, I got this killer up inside of me. I can't talk to my mother, so I talk to my diary.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Even though that was a thing 20 years ago, there are still white people that are still afraid to sing a rap song with the word nigger in it. You know, even Kendrick Lamar will freak out over the fact that one of his white fans will sing the fucking song that paid to see him live. But it's like, it's not like she wrote the fucking song. It's your song. You're singing the song. What is this double standard? I'm getting off topic.
Yeah, you are. It is getting off topic.
I got something I got to say though, not about that, but about the movie, real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. Orlando Jones' one scene is great.
Oh yeah.
I'm a crack addict and I sell magazines.
I'm
I come from a rough rough area.
You know, he's co-stars with David Herman. They were on Mad TV together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The last I ever saw him on TV was him doing the DNL commercials of 7-Up and everything.
Yeah, the Make 7-Up Yours commercials. Those were
He
great.
was actually in that Stars adaptation of American Gods.
Huh.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was in that. He played a pretty big role in it.
He's a good actor, man. He's a bit underrated, honestly.
Yeah, he is.
I agree. He's hilarious, especially in that one scene. You're not gonna tell anyone what we did. That depends.
Yeah, yeah, that's the best part about that whole thing is that when they first open the door, I don't know if you noticed this, Darkscream, but when he is talking to them in that weird dialect, his eyes are rolling at the top, rolling up his head. You know what that means, right?
Saying it over and over again.
Yeah, he's remembering.
Or just trying to remember his lines. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do sometimes when I think of something quick or try to remember shit. But he's saying it in a pacing, in a cadence where like his head is moving along with each word, and his eyes are all wide, and then he breaks character and he's like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm not addicted to crack. It's just something I use to sell magazines."
Okay. I got a question for you guys. I thought this would be a fun question to ask in regards about Michael Bolton. I want to ask, if there was a celebrity name you would regret sharing if you had it, whose celebrity name would you share that you don't want and why?
Usher. Do I need to explain why?
Oh,
No, Michael Jackson, because I'd have too big of shoes to fill, either him or Michael Jordan.
that's a good one.
Well,
you see what I did there with that pun there? Yeah.
Magus, what about you?
right now it would be R. Kelly.
Oh
Robert,
God,
I'm
you
going
never
there
do that
now,
one.
Being
I'm
named
joking.
Robert Kelly would actually be terrible. There's actually a stand-up comedian named Robert Kelly. Wonder how
Yeah,
he's
well,
I wonder what he thought about it, about the actual R. Kelly R&B singer, what he's going through.
He probably don't want to get sued for making people think that he is the other R. Kelly. R. Kelly does comedy, girl. No, wrong R. Kelly. I don't know.
Well, you know what that guy's problem would be? All his acts are getting canceled because they're mistaking him for the wrong R. Kelly.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah. Especially now. You just had to be born with the wrong name. I'm sorry. Those are the terms.
Okay, I thought about this for a while. I think my answer, I don't want to be Will Smith. That's a very common name, or it sounds like a common name, but it'll be associated with a pretty well-known celebrity to this day, especially.
I mean, there's so many names.
But the last thing I want is when people call, Mr. Will Smith, but you're white. That would be my biggest. Great.
I mean, Will Smith sounds like a white name anyway. Isn't that the ironic part about the shit?
Yeah.
It could be.
So,
not that I'm looking for it to be it.
So let's talk about some of the other actors. Gary Cole, who plays Bill Lumbergh, he's actually probably one of my favorite actors. You might also know him as Harvey Birdman, attorney at law.
Yeah.
He also voices Fred Jones's dad in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, which is probably the best Scooby-Doo thing to ever come out ever.
I think that was the last time I could stand to watch that show.
And he was also Ricky Bobby's dad in Talladega Nights. I thought he was pretty funny there.
Oh man,
I just love the fact that when people ask him, "Oh, what did you do to get into the character?" or whatever, all he said was, "Yeah, I just look at the Milton shorts and just imitate Judge's performance, beat for beat."
Wow, and he pulled it off too. Yeah,
pulled it off. Yeah, and practically made it his own, even though he just admitted that he didn't.
Yeah, I just copied it. Fuck it, why not?
Yeah.
And as for Milton was in Get Out.
Yeah, he was played by Stephen Root, who, besides Get Out, he's also Bill Dauterive in King of the Hill.
Okay, so he's worked with Mike Judge.
Yeah, that's the interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Boy, that character, he is an oddball, and I would be also just as uncomfortable as everyone else. But at the same time, you can't help but feel bad for the guy and feel like that his act in the final part of the film was completely justified when he set the building on fire.
And the irony of it all is that he's still not satisfied despite everything.
You know what's sad about it too is that whole scene where the Bobs are talking and Lumbergh goes ask, "So he's gone?" No, he's not gone. We took care of the glitch.
Yeah, so they'll have him work regardless of how much they pay him.
Yeah, and they know he's not employed, and they still fuck with him. They still like move into like the bottom cellar and put all this stuff in his cubicle. And it's also interesting.
The lights and everything.
It's also interesting because it's a satire on how bosses aren't as confrontational with their employees. Oh, they could be condescending, and they will put themselves over you in a position of power. But when they say. But when it's time to go, I'm afraid we're going to have to let you go. We need you to pack your shit and get out of here by this time, and we'll have a security escort you. They won't do that. And it's kind of true to this day. A little anecdote I got to share. A couple years back, I was on my lunch break just hanging out in one of the offices because it's one of the quieter places. And I see this woman come up and ask one of our supervisors, I saw they took me off the schedule. Am I fired or what? And she checks the file and says, "Oh yeah, you were let go." And she got pissed off because nobody let her know.
Yeah.
And yeah, they'll do that. They'll fire you and they won't tell it to your face. Which shows that there's a little bit of cowardice there. It's not just with Milton in that film either.
Yeah,
you saw how they planned to fire Michael and Smear. They said, "Hey, Whoa.
Hmm?
You adjusted your mic there?
Me?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It was like very stacky.
It's crackling.
Yeah, like you were moving it around or something.
I don't know. It must be a loose wire or something.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Mm.
Also, with what's also a sad thing? Peter getting promoted for being lazy. That happens too.
Yeah, I love the fact that even Peter thought that was bullshit. And by the way, that entire second act of the film where Peter just like gets after the occupational hypnotherapist and he stops giving a fuck. That's probably my favorite act in the entire film because it's just hilarious on how much he just doesn't care. He doesn't go to work. He has the balls to ask Joanne. His other girlfriend, which by the way in the script she actually had more screen time, but the girlfriend that he broke up with just admitted to cheating on him, even though he was suspicious of it. He doesn't care. And he just tells the Bobs that he only does 15 minutes of work in a week. Oh man, everything out of Pierce's mouth during that moment was great. And yeah,
we've seen you've been missing a lot of work. I don't know if I've been missing it.
That Peter Gibbons, he's a straight shooter with upper management all over him. Yeah, that's also true. You do see people who do less and get more opportunities that way. And they even fired Samir and Michael. And as I was trying to say before, they didn't want to do it immediately. They decided to do it on Friday because it would cause "quote unquote" less problems.
Yeah, I wonder if that's true or not. I mean, I guess according to the logic, it would be. But one thing I really liked was the running joke of how everyone else suspected that his girlfriend was cheating on him, but him, and he would just ask a question. He was like, "Well, what's that supposed to mean?" And he asked Lawrence, "Like, yeah, I get that feeling too, man." This is after two people have already voiced their opinion about it. As they're taking a lunch break, and he's like, I don't know, I just get that feeling, man. This type of chick that just. I'm sorry, man. I'm talking about my ass.
And why does she? I don't understand. Why does she care if he doesn't go to work or not? Remember?
That is a question. I mean,
I want to say in the original script, she also worked at Initech, or the script said the building was actually called Nightcore instead of Initech. I want to say that might be the reason. But I mean, when you take that out of context, why doesn't she give a shit? Why? Because he's her support or some bullshit?
I mean, I would suppose if you do in the relationship, these type of things are shared. There was a girl I was talking to at one point and called me and asked me why I haven't been to work. It's just ironic I'm telling this story, and no, it does not end the way you think it does. It's just that they had not put on file that I had taken my vacation, even though I was literally forced. That lets you know how dedicated to work I am. I was forced to take my vacation at the last minute. Otherwise, I would lose it. So they threw together a schedule the last second so that I could take my vacation, but no one else knew. And that's why my girlfriend at the time called me. So you're like, why aren't you there? It's like, because I didn't feel like it. Yeah, I'm not going to show up just because I'm off because you haven't heard from me. I wouldn't answer my phone, so either way. Anyway, we're getting off topic, way off topic, but another thing you voiced, Darkscream, was just the idea of the term occupational hypnotherapist. Like legally, if I say I'm a hypnotherapist, I could probably get sued in case something bad happens.
Okay, I'm actually. Oh my god, I just googled the occupational hypnotherapist just to see if this is even a real thing, and
yeah,
I got some results. I think it might be.
Well, I'm not saying it's not. It's just that's a very strange way to identify yourself for your job.
Well,
no one you don't call yourself an occupational librarian, now do you? Exactly. It sounds ridiculous. It's like, of course, an occupation. What is an occupation? A job.
It's just one occupational therapist. Why does it have to be hypnotherapy at this point, man? If your job is coffee, I would just tell everyone else, man, you should just get another job if this one just gives you so much hell. And especially when Peter describes just how bad it is working at Initech for him, and his response, it's like every day
priceless.
is worse than the day before. So it's like every day every day is the worst day of my life.
What about today? Is today the worst day of your life?
Well, yeah.
Wow, that's messed up. I'm sorry. The good news is, I think I can help you.
You know what's funny?
Just goes from there.
You know what's weird? Funny weird, as in, the scene itself when he fucking dies of a heart attack and Peter is all relaxed and chill. That's hilarious. But what's strange is the dude is clearly wearing a toupee.
Yeah,
you clearly see that. And I thought the heart attack of him keeling over and dying, I thought there was going to be like a visual gag where the toupee would just fall off, but it never happens.
I think they may have thought about that. But yeah, the toupee was so like you could see it wasn't real. Like that's even before he fell over. I just looked at the hair, and then I looked at his face here. I'm like, for one, they're not even the same color. Where his widow's peak is at, as opposed to his hairline, like it doesn't match his face. So of course it's not real hair. But the fact that he has a toupee with a hat, so it looks too fake for it to be shown on its own, but I have to mask it along with what I'm already lying to you about.
Okay. Now I do admit that comedy-wise, and even some of the messages this film has still hold up to this day. But it also makes it a dated movie. And what makes it really dated is the technology. This was pre Y2K. And
that's true. They actually mentioned that as part of the story.
Yeah, Y2K is part of the plot.
When he describes his job to Jennifer Aniston, which by the way ends with him going, I don't like my job. I'm just not going to go. But it did remind me of the Y2K bug scare, which I was definitely alive, and I got teachers talking about all the time in elementary school. God, I wish I was high school. I wish I graduated early, but and of course nothing of it came from it.
Of course not.
But a thing that also makes this movie relevant is that whenever you go to school or work or college, they would always have computers and printers and technology that just feel like they are at least a generation behind. You remember the printers and copying machines at the library at our university, Art?
Yeah,
definitely. You couldn't. They wouldn't even allow color for our printers.
I hated those fucking printers, and they print so quickly when they wanted to, but they never printed color. And I'm like, this is 2008. I have a color printer in my room.
Yeah.
Why don't you have a color printer? I spent $30 on that printer the day I moved into my fucking dorm.
You would either have to get your own printer, or you have to drive to the Office Depot, or there was actually a printing service near our university campus you had to pay money for, but I had to get those pictures out in color for a project.
Yeah, we also paid for pictures to still be developed from cameras too.
And of course, Initech had to have the worst printer in existence that would just piss off our characters so much. It just remind us of our harsh realities. PC load letter.
Yeah, you funny little story about the lore with that. You understand why it says PC load letter? Well, really, what it is that it's trying to communicate with a printer. That, by the way, that was my other profile. That's why it sounded like that.
It's fine.
Yeah, this is back during a time where printers had to communicate with specific types of computers. And if they didn't have the right type of operation system, they would glitch out and show weird messages. So the joke is that they didn't even bother having a printer designed to work with their computers. Aside from it also being dated as well,
which makes the execution scene to Ghetto Boys to Still even more justified. My God, of course.
See, that's the real reason that was the main scene that really brought my attention to that movie when I first saw it, when I didn't understand it, because it was just so ridiculous.
I like to think that that's the scene people think of who haven't seen Office Space. Think, oh,
Yeah.
it's the scene where a couple guys just go freaking murder a printer like they're a bunch of mafiosos. It's
murder a printer.
It's such
I
a
love that.
beautiful scene too.
They
It's
savage
great.
it.
Oh man, and Michael himself, dude, he was like so pissed that he would just like beat the crap out of it with his bare hands. And then they try to drag him out, and he started to calm down, and he just runs back and assaults on it more.
Apparently, I looked it up. Yeah, apparently there's a little bit more to it. It's mainly referring to the paper itself not being the right size for the printer, which would explain why it says PC load letter. I mean, in other words, the printer shit. That's the joke, okay? That's all we need to know.
It's unfortunately a little more relatable. But anyways, we should wrap this up real quickly, but I wanted to wrap it up on I want to bring up two more things. One, have you guys seen some of the deleted scenes in the film?
No, I've seen some of them actually.
Okay,
but it's been a long time since I've seen any of them.
Okay, for brevity's sake, I want to talk about one particular deleted scene, which I'm glad they deleted because it reminds me of the deleted scene from the movie Clerks, where our main character Dante gets shot and killed.
Oh yeah.
Well, see, you're about to see why. So at the end of the film, their office burns down, as well as all the evidence. We didn't even talk about the fact that they stole too much money. Jesus. Oh yeah. And you know what's funny? When I see people talk, when I see plot descriptions of Office Space, they usually bring up the fact that it's about a bunch of former office co-workers going to steal some money. But that's not until like the last act of the film. There's more to it than just that. But that in itself is great, and I don't think I want to talk more about that anyways, because I kind of want people to I actually want to see if we can encourage some people to go see this film.
I mean, really, it's an old movie, but that should never be a reason why you shouldn't experience something. But, whether it's a video game, a movie, if you're curious, by all means, please see this movie.
Well, anyway,
even if it's not relatable.
Peter ends up getting a job as a construction worker, and he actually finds himself being more happy with this job, even though it probably doesn't pay as much.
Yeah.
Which seems to be like the message of the film. It's like trying to find your own personal happiness. Work sucks. Even Jennifer Aniston says at one point to Peter that a lot of people really hate their jobs, and they always try to find some form of escapism in order to, enjoy life, enjoy themselves. Like, that's why most of us are gamers. But so he gets that job, he enjoys it, he ends with saying fucking A with Lawrence.
Fucking A.
But in the deleted scene, as the camera pans out, his boss comes out and he tells both Peter and Lawrence, yeah, I was wondering if you two could pick up the pace a little. Okay. Basically they're saying that he now has another boss and he's just like Lumbergh, and oh shit.
Like you didn't escape anything.
I think some people might have actually argued that delete scene would be funny, but I think it's a little too nihilistic for my taste.
Not only that, it like I said before with Jennifer Aniston's character, her boss, the parallels with him and Bill Lumbergh. I think the point had already been driven home just through those characters' experiences being similar, that they hate their jobs and they hate their boss.
Yeah. Also in another deleted scene, they imply that Bill Lumbergh died in the fire.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, you were saying?
Really? That was in a cut scene?
Well,
it's implied.
Well, not implied. I'm sorry. Poor choice of words. During the in that same final scene, they actually had like a 5-second deleted scene where Peter asked, "Did anyone attend Lumbergh's funeral?" Shit, no, me neither.
Nah,
and that was the whole scene.
Damn.
Oh, shit.
But
it's funny you say that. I just can't help but to think of the dog in the house burning on fire type of picture. And it just says, "This is fine." Just slap Bill Lumbergh's fucking face on there, because doesn't he drink a cup of coffee? Like, he always Even when he was in storage talking to Milton, whenever the Bobs told him a bunch of money was missing, I think he had his fucking cup of coffee with him. He got out the fucking car at the beginning of the movie with a cup of coffee, if I'm not mistaken.
I wonder if he still had his. I keep thinking how he reacted when he got his Porsche towed. Did he just, especially when the bumper came off too by accident, did he just look at that, sip on this coffee, and go, yeah?
Yeah. He probably did.
Oh, God. What was the last thing I wanted to talk about before I wrap this up?
I mean, this could be an endless discussion, man.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, well, it is very similar to what I was talking about anyways. I said this film does have some interesting morals and messages that you can interpret, and that is, you know, you can find happiness whenever you can, or, you know, your job sucks, but you got to do what you can to make get through, or try to find something that makes you happy. I've heard that the cult impact of this film did lead to some very interesting things. Stephen Root would actually autograph fans' staplers.
Oh shit!
Swing Line, which in itself was a cultural impact. Like, Swing Line actually decided to cave in and make some red staplers for everybody.
Right, because they didn't really exist before then. Like, they just painted it red for the sake of the movie.
Yeah, and as for Peter Gibbons's actor, Ron Livingston, people came up to him and said, thanks to the movie you were in, I actually decided to quit my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be some pressure that you put on your actors like that, but okay.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you should have made that life decision because of a movie, but I mean, hey, you got to remember these movies are made by human beings.
It could be worse. It could be, thanks to you, I quit my job and stole money from the company.
And now I'm going to jail. I mean, we're going away for a little while. Jail.
Federal pound me in the ass prison.
I used to always think the phrase was pounding in the ass, but no, the subtitle is pound me in the ass.
Prison.
Yeah.
Conjugal visits, sex with women during conjugal visits.
Shit. I've been a free man has a conjugal visit. Michael Ball did say that line. That was funny. He's basically saying I'm single. Is pretty much what he's saying. We use that one. They're not gonna need that, right?
But yeah, for those who are listening in on this podcast and they haven't seen the movie yet, I still strongly recommend it. It's one of my absolute favorite comedies of all time. It's pretty much up there on my top 10 personal comedies list.
Yeah, I remember recommending this movie to a friend that knew about the movie and watched a whole bunch of clips and didn't think much of the movie. And I told them, even when you piece the clips together, it's not going to feel right unless you watch the entire movie. And now it's one of his favorite comedies of all time because it really hits home.
Mm-hmm. That is true. It's best to watch it from start to finish rather than just look up clips on YouTube or catch it in the middle of a rerun or on Comedy Central or whatever. So, and you gotta see it uncut. Like I'm usually don't care much for excessive coarse language, but some of the dialogue with all the F-bombs and stuff in that film, it's great.
But and remember, next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day.
So come into a shirt and come into work wearing a Hawaiian shirt and jeans. Okay,
dude, I have a screen cap of that scene, of that one shot, and I'm thinking about making it my desktop. Just the look on those people's face. Some of them are so debased. They're not even really paying attention. But there's one guy. Next time you see Darkscream, there's one guy in particular I want you to look out for. He has a very bushy mustache. It's like towards the left of it. The look on his face sells that entire fucking scene for me.
I'll see if I can find him then.
In fact, I'll send it to you if I find that picture. It's probably on my phone.
I think I'm going to go watch it after this again.
Yeah.
Nice. Magus, any other parting words about this film you want to give to our audience or anything?
Well, if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's a cult classic for a reason. And it's crazy how, again, 1999 was the year of subtle films just becoming...
The death of political correctness. Of political incorrectness.
I would say that was 2001. But
yeah, true.
Yeah, you're right. Because then that was when 9/11 actually happened.
You know, fulfilling that fantasy to say, I don't give a fuck, screw my bosses, damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Real gangsta ass niggas don't even know. I could say the entire line because the real gangsta ass niggas don't start fights. I mean, I don't disagree with any of the lyrics of that song. It's like, yeah, what about that could apply to today's rappers? None of them are about what they say they are, but that's going into a different story.
All right, any other final messages you want to give, Art?
No.
If you haven't seen this movie or have seen this movie and don't think it's funny, you have no soul and don't know what comedy is.
Jesus.
Kevin Hart's not funny.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And you suck for thinking the opposite. That's it. Like I'm sorry. I'm from the edgy '90s, and I'll tell you like it is. We don't have enough of that, and I'm doing my civic duty the best I can.
It's still out there if you look for it, though.
Yeah, in little bits and pieces, but yeah, I'm bringing it back, man.
Thing now. But then again, so is this movie.
Yeah.
All right, so
yeah.
Yeah.
I can't find it, dude. It's got to be on my phone somewhere. I don't know. I'll find it eventually.
Stapler.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I'll just take that. Okay.
Get that from you. It's like, oh God, what the fuck is this?
All right. So I guess that's everything. With that, this is Darkscream signing out.
With that, guys, Magus out.
Fighting gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. And please, if you haven't seen this movie, or even if you have, just give it another watch and realize that movies don't have to be completely relatable to be enjoyable, but they have to feel like they're made by a human being for them to ever be good. And this movie is prime example of that.
That is true. Take care, everybody.
Take care.